A young woman disappeared after coming home late one night. Her body was later discovered on the rooftop in a state of advanced decay. The police launched an investigation and eventually tracked down the killer.
If you want ordinary, look elsewhere. Welcome to TC Channel, where other channels fall short, unique mysteries solved step by step.
This happened in Kunshan, Jiangsu, at the Decay residential complex. The buildings here have a unique butterfly shape with water running through the area. The complex is huge, with 100 buildings of all kinds. It's close to the train and bus stations, so it's a popular place for people new to Kunshan. It all started on October 1st, 2016, during the National Day holiday. Xiaowen, who lived in Decay, planned to hit the gym like he did every day, but when he got there, he found the gym was closed. With nowhere else to go, he decided to stretch on the rooftop instead, since it was peaceful and had a great view. He took the elevator to the 40th floor, then climbed a ladder up to the roof. While warming up, he noticed something strange in the corner. Curious, he went over and was shocked to find a body giving off a strong smell. Xiaowen rushed downstairs and immediately called the police. The police were there quickly. The building where this happened was 40 stories tall, so the officers had to climb a ladder to get to the rooftop. When they arrived, the body was found in the corner. A quick check showed the victim was a woman in her 20s with significant decomposition. The police believed she had been dead for around a month. She was wearing simple clothes, high heels, and a necklace. There were no signs of injury, no blood, and no evidence of a struggle. Nearby, 2 unopened bottles of water and a bottle of coconut milk were found. Her phone and personal items were missing. The clues started to come together, but they made the investigation a real challenge. At first, the police couldn't tell whether the woman's death was natural or something else. They had to work through every little detail, piece by piece. The first thing they ruled out was suicide. Usually, women care a lot about their appearance, so it didn't make sense that she would end her life in such a messy way. It just didn't add up. The odds of an unnatural death seemed much higher, but to get up to the rooftop, you'd have to climb a narrow ladder, one person at a time. It would have been nearly impossible for someone to have been dumped there after they died. The woman was under 5 feet 7 inches and wearing high heels, so getting up that ladder would have been tough. She couldn't have made it to the rooftop alone. The police thought someone else might have been involved. Maybe they forced her up there or met her there, then attacked her once she arrived. That seemed the most likely. They took a sample of her hair for testing, since only people involved in serious crimes have their DNA stored. But her DNA didn't match anything in the system, so they couldn't identify her. Based on her clothes, she was wearing a low-cut, off-the-shoulder dress with a very short hem. She also had on high heels. This style is common among people who work in the entertainment industry. People in this field often don't have steady jobs, and they move around a lot. The police had no leads and couldn't identify her, and they didn't know what happened to her before she died. With her identity still unknown, the case wasn't going anywhere. So the police started checking the residents of the building and also looked into missing persons from the last month. Soon, they found another missing person report. On September 18th, a man reported that his sister, Zhao Xiaojuan, lived in the Butterfly Lake Bay community and worked at a nightclub in Kunshan. In early September, her phone suddenly went off, and there had been no word from her since. Her brother couldn't get in touch with her, so he called the police. Zhao Xiaojuan's description, her age, where she lived, and her job matched the woman found on the rooftop. The police immediately started investigating her. They went through surveillance footage and found the last sighting of Zhao Xiaojuan. She worked her last shift on September 6th, then on the morning of September 7th, she left the nightclub, went to a supermarket, bought 2 bottles of water and a bottle of coconut milk, and then took a tricycle back to Butterfly Lake Bay. The video showed her wearing a black skirt and high heels, holding a bag and wearing a bracelet. There was no sign that anyone was following her. Once she entered the building, she completely disappeared. Later, they discovered that Zhao Xiaozhuan lived in the same building as the woman found on the rooftop. Her appearance and clothing were identical to those of the deceased, and the water and coconut milk she bought were the same as the items found near the body. Finally, after DNA testing, it was confirmed that the woman on the rooftop was indeed Zhao Xiaohuan. The police quickly started looking into Zhao Xiaohuan's apartment. The door was intact, and everything inside was pretty tidy. There was no sign of anything being rummaged through. Cash and valuables were untouched. So, who could have done this? Zhao Xiaohuan's brother told the police his sister was pregnant at the time, but he had no idea who the father was. Her co-workers didn't know either. Given her job, she interacted with a lot of men, and some were more than just acquaintances. At first, the police thought it might have been personal, so they questioned the men she had been close to. But those men weren't around when it happened, so that theory was ruled out, and the police had to rethink the case. After digging deeper, the police figured Zhao Xiaozhuan must have gotten into trouble on her way home. She was wearing a short skirt and heels, which are uncomfortable for being at home. Usually, when women get home, they change into something more comfortable. But her body, her work clothes, and the bottles of water were found on the rooftop. It looked like she was attacked before she even made it inside. Unfortunately, the security cameras in the hallway and elevator weren't working, so the police couldn't figure out what happened after she entered the building. The case was more complicated than they expected. The police went through all the available leads. Then they found something strange. Around 12:50 a.m., there was a small transaction of $3.30 from her bank account. About an hour later, the transfer failed, and the $3.30 was returned to her account. The reason for the failure was that the account the money was sent to didn't exist. The police started to suspect someone might have been holding Zhao Xiaozhuan at that time, forcing her to give up her bank details and do the transfer. They figured the suspect might have used that to test if her password was correct. Since the transfer happened at 12:50, she could have still been alive then. Once the suspect confirmed the password, they probably decided she wasn't useful anymore, and that's when the attack happened. They confirmed the time of Zhao Xiaozhuan's death. It was around 1 a.m. on September 7th, 2016. By the time the crime scene was discovered, over 20 days had passed. Most of the evidence had already been washed away by the weather. There were hardly any physical clues left. The police had to rely on surveillance footage to figure out who was coming and going during that time. After reviewing the footage, a man stood out. On September 6th, 2016, about 20 minutes before Zhao Xiaozhuan arrived home, a man was spotted outside the building. He hung around on the stairs for a few minutes before going back inside. 10 minutes later, Zhao Xiaozhuan came home and entered the building. No one else went in or out during that time. Who was this guy? Could he be involved in the case? The footage was too blurry to make out his face. The police thought the killer might have run off right after the crime, so they turned their attention to anyone who left the building that night. Between that night and the next morning, 5 different people were seen leaving. Around 0:59 a.m., 2 men left. One was walking, the other was on an electric bike. The police tracked them down and confirmed they were not involved. Later, at 1:20, 1:24, and 3:05, a couple and 2 men were seen leaving. Finally, at 4:37, another man left riding an electric bike. The police cleared all 5 of them after questioning them. So no one who left the building that night was a suspect. That leaves one possibility. The killer lived in the building. After the crime, he didn't rush to leave. Instead, he went back to his own place. As mentioned at the start, Daehu Bay is close to the train station, bus station, and the local job market. It's a popular spot for migrant workers coming to Kunshan. The building has lots of short-term rentals, shared apartments, and group housing. The killer likely blended in with the other residents. This version keeps things simple and conversational, in a style that feels more natural for an American audience, while making sure to avoid triggering any content restrictions. The police began checking each apartment, which was a tough task. The building has 40 floors, and when they reached the 35th floor, they found something suspicious. Room 3503 on the 35th floor was a shared apartment with several people living there. The police spoke with the residents and learned that on the evening of September 6, 2016, a group of people was having a gathering in the apartment. One of them, a man named Ren Jibin, left for a long period during the night. Others said that around 11 p.m. Ren Jibin left, and after that no one knew when he returned. The police were suspicious. What drew more attention was, on September 8, 2016, Ren Jibin, who was supposed to go to work, suddenly left Kunshan. The police launched an immediate investigation and tracked his movements. The investigation revealed that after leaving Kunshan, he had been involved in other disputes. At a massage parlor, he had an argument with someone and was accused of inappropriate behavior. When the police found him, he admitted to those actions, but denied any involvement in the earlier case. He claimed that he had left Kunshan months ago, but the police confirmed he had only left on September 8th. Ren Jibin's story didn't match up, and during questioning, his answers didn't add up either. Eventually, he admitted to being connected to the case. Ren Jibin, 28 years old, from Jiangsu, had come to Kunshan in August 2016 through a friend who promised he could earn thousands a month. But the reality was far from that. He was disappointed, and on the night of September 6th, after drinking a few drinks with friends in the shared apartment, he decided to go for a walk downstairs. A few minutes later, he returned to the hallway, and on his way down in the elevator, he ran into Zhao Xiaojun. When he saw her, he had inappropriate thoughts, walked up to her, and started talking. Zhao Xiaojun felt uncomfortable, but tried to stay calm and said she was willing to cooperate. They both took the elevator to the rooftop, where Zhao Xiaojun again asked him to let her go, but he refused, and forcefully took her to the roof. Once they reached the rooftop, Zhao Xiaojun continued to ask him to let her go, trying to talk to him in hopes of easing the tension. Ren Jibin was agitated, and during the following events, he made some very wrong decisions. Afterward, he realized he had made a huge mistake and quickly left the scene. He discarded Zhao Xiaojun's personal belongings in the hallway and tried to cover his tracks. After the incident, the police, based on Ren Jibin's confession, gathered evidence and found Zhao Xiaojun's belongings. These clues confirmed Ren Jibin's identity. The case was ultimately concluded, and on August 6, 2019, the court sentenced Ren Jibin to death. Ren Jibin had never met Zhao Xiaojun, and even after his arrest, he had no memory of her. He blamed his actions on losing control due to alcohol, but nothing could change the fact that Zhao Xiaojun's life could not be brought back. This case serves as a reminder that everyone deserves respect for their freedom and choices. Women have the right to show confidence and beauty, and choosing their own style of dress is their personal freedom. Zhao Xiaojun was just an ordinary young woman. Her clothing and behavior didn't harm anyone, but she became a victim of violence. We should reflect on this. In a healthy society, a woman's clothing should never be a reason for violence. Everyone needs to understand that no matter what someone wears, it should never be an excuse for violence. Women in society have the right to maintain their confidence and freedom. We must respect everyone's freedom and never judge them maliciously based on their clothing. Have you ever been misunderstood or treated unfairly because of what you wore? What do you think can be done to create a more respectful society, one that values individual freedom and reduces violence? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion might just change someone's perspective on this issue. If you care about social justice and personal freedom, make sure to subscribe. Your subscription helps us spread positivity and drive change.